Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Hey, today I wanted to talk to you about not delaying when it comes to filing VA benefits or filing a claim for VA benefits. Now, there's things like your education benefits through the VA. There's also VA home loan guarantee. But the primary driver for most of us, or at least those watching this channel, are going to be monetary benefits through the VA. These monetary benefits will boost your household income, which is very important. So whether you're a family of just you as the veteran, or if you have a wife and 17 children, you're going to be better off if you have more money coming into your household. Now, I've done videos like this before in the past, but I wanted to kind of, I guess, put a little light on VA compensation and the reason why. And many of you already know this stuff, and I appreciate just the thumbs up, subscribing if you haven't, and sharing with those that you know that may need this information. And honestly, just by doing the thumbs up, that helps put it into the hands of those that haven't received this type of information. So here's the reality. There's approximately 16.5 million veterans in the U.S., of which less than 30% are receiving VA compensation for disabilities at any level, right? So it could be a 0%. So a very small percentage in the big picture of us are actually utilizing this benefit. Now, there is a whole host of reasons. Some of the most common are, you know what, I'm fine. I got my hands, I got my feet, I can still talk. I don't need it. Save it for somebody else who needs it. So that's one of them. Another is, I don't have any disabilities, or I'm fine financially. I'm doing okay. I don't need the handout, right? So that's just a few, right? There's more. But the reality is that when you joined the military, here's the deal. The recruiters and the in-processing portion and all that, even through boot camp and schools and all that stuff, and finally you're settled in, nobody ever took the time to sit you down, more than likely, right? There might be one of you out there. Most likely, nobody took you and said, hey, 18-year-old you or 20-year-old you or however old you were when you joined. In fact, that's an interesting one. Throw down the age that you were when you joined the military. Just curious to see the array of ages. But nobody sat you down and said, hey, look, part of your benefits package is this. And talk about VA stuff. Beyond education and home loan. Okay, beyond that. So let's put it into civilian terms. If you went to work for a company, large company, and that company said, hey, if you stick with this company for 4 years, you're going to become vested in the retirement system with us. And, we're going to contribute as a company into your retirement system. And if you leave after that 4 years, for any reason, you can just cash that out if you want and take it with you. Or you can leave it there and we'll just give you, it'd be a small little retirement out of there. But the reality is that was an earned benefit because of your time in serving that company. So same idea with the military. Look, here's part of your benefits package. If you go through your military service honorably or not dishonorably, obviously everybody knows there's more than one type of discharge. So as long as it's a decent discharge, and even if it's not, you can always petition for an upgrade in your discharge status, even if it's just for VA purposes. So the reality is that we, as a collective veteran group, tend to leave stuff on the table. So most of you who watch this channel aren't leaving it on the table. It's all of the others of us. And we need to help our brothers and sisters out by getting this information to them. So a couple of the things that I think about are, look, the words that are used aren't necessarily the best to create the picture of what the VA does as far as benefits are concerned. For example, two of my favorites are disability, right? So disability compensation, VA disability compensation. Well, disability in our minds has been honed into, you're limping around, you're missing a limb, you have some sort of a physical ailment that is a disability. Now, the one kind of caveat there would be PTSD, because it's gotten so much notoriety over the last, 10 years or more. So people understand that mental health and that type of stuff is also disabling. But what happens is we tend to wrap ourselves around this axle of disability and things that we think are, well, it's just part of age, or it's part of getting older, or, this isn't considered a disability, is it? And so if we question any of it, we just assume that we wouldn't qualify, and therefore we self-segregate out of applying for any VA benefits. The other thing, so that was one, was the disability piece. The other one is, even if you are rated with the VA at whatever rating, let's say it's a lower rating, 30% or less, then what happens is that 100% rating seems so far away and seems impossible to hit. And what we tend to think is, now again, many of you already know, right? So I'm not saying you don't know. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that have no clue. And so help me get this to them by hitting the thumbs up, right? So the 100% rating in our minds, again, I think the VA doesn't do a good job explaining this. 100% sounds like, well, that's the maximum. You cannot get any more than that. And when I think of 100%, I think of money, because it's a monetary benefit. So therefore, the 100% represents the most money that I would get for my service-connected disabilities, right? The reality is that that's not the case. But in our minds, if we don't know, we just assume that 100% is the maximum amount of money that you would receive from the VA for any given sort of disabilities. And the problem here is that when we think about it that way, we, again, self-segregate out of that as even being a possibility, because we reserve the 100% rating in our minds for the individual that was rolling in a convoy and was hit by an IED and is not doing well, right? They're having all kinds of sorts of issues, and 37 surgeries later, that person should be 100%. Therefore, if you're walking around, you shouldn't be. And then what happens is we tend to have that in our mind as what 100% rated is. Then when you meet somebody who's 100% and they're able to play golf or get up and walk around or whatever, we tend to think, wow, well, that person seems like they might be scamming the system. And then we get this weird bad taste in our mouth, and then we don't want to be that person. And so it's this weird kind of situation. And it's all based on lack of knowledge. So the reality is that beyond the 100% rating is something called special monthly compensation, SMC. That's reserved for the you don't really want to be in that situation person. They're going to be on that rating schedule at the higher levels. Now, these rating schedules are not based on percentages. They're based on letters. They have letters for different schedules, for different ailments, and so forth. And there's some little spots in the SMC schedule that you can actually compound to your 100%. Like aid in attendance is one that they kind of use out of that, and they just kind of throw it over as an add-on. But for the most part, SMC, special monthly compensation, is its own schedule if you get into the higher realms, and that's what you get. You no longer get your 0 to 100%. So with that being said, that helps to eliminate that, well, I shouldn't be at 100%. Well, now all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. If the SMC is for severely damaged individuals, well, then what does the 100% really mean? Well, it goes back to the word disability. What does the VA define as disability, or what's disabling? What are they talking about here? And I will tell you this. It's not based on how old you are, right? You know, the older you get, the more you tend to kind of fall apart a little bit, right? The 40-year-old is not the same as the 20-year-old you. The 60-year-old you is not the same as the 20-year-old you, and so on and so forth, right? So the way that it works is basically anything. And well, I'll explain it this way. This is the way that I usually explain it. There's three things for a successful claim with the VA. One is your time in service. That opens up a window of opportunity, entry date, exit date. Two is a diagnosed condition. We're really good at self-diagnosing. Doesn't mean anything. You actually have to go to a doctor. Get diagnosed. That diagnosis must be for something that is chronic in nature or has residual effects, meaning that it's some sort of an ongoing problem. It's not, you know, I got a cold once and it went away, but it was a really bad cold. Nobody gives anything about that. Okay, it has to be something that's an ongoing problem. So the diagnosis for an ongoing problem is number two. Number three is what they call a nexus, the link between the condition and your time in service. Now, the condition link, right, for the condition to your time in service is not that the military caused it. We tend to think that the military needs to have caused the problem in order for me to get it service connected. That's not the case. Although, of course, if a Humvee got, flipped over and crushed your leg, right, obviously the military caused that issue and now you got a jacked up leg, and so now you're going to go get compensation for that. But it's also, hey, I joined the military. I never had any issues with migraines or heartburn, right? Bad heartburn, GERD. And now, 2 years in, 3 years in, 5 years in, 30 years in, whatever, doesn't matter, right? So it depends on your window of opportunity, entry date, exit date. So if you retired at 30 years, you got a lot of time to work with, which brings me to the longer you were in the military, the more likely you should be at 100%, in my opinion. So coming back to it, so now you didn't have migraines, you did not have GERD when you joined. A few years later or whatever, somewhere in your time in service, you started having those problems. Well, guess what? Are they chronic in nature? Do you have it ongoing? Do you have a migraine once a week, twice a week, once a month, once every 2 months? Do you have heartburn, whatever, right? Once a month, once a week, whatever it is, and it's ongoing and chronic, it's an ongoing issue? Well, guess what? Those two items are service connectable, along with many others. I just like to use those as an example because many people think, I was going to have heartburn anyway in my life. My whole family does. Or I was going to have migraines anyway. My whole family does. The VA does not care if you came from a family history of X. They're just looking for, you came in clean, no issues. Now you have issues. Now you're getting out. Get it service connected. So here's the other kind of funny part. A lot of times I will see people that are chasing after the thing that bothers them the most, thinking that it's going to give them this really high rating, and it doesn't. For example, back issues. I mean, if you can walk, right? If you can walk or drive or anything like that, you'll be lucky to get more than a 20%. And this is the weirdest world, right? Where everything bad is good. And everything that's good is bad, right? Oh, your back got better. Oh, that's horrible. Now you're going to lose some rating, potentially. Or, wow, your back's really messed up. Oh, great, you're going to get a higher rating. So it's kind of backwards, but you get it. So you'd be lucky to get higher than a 20% rating, in my opinion, for your back. However, it could really, really bother you. So the problem is that people will tend to get hyper-focused on that one thing and leave other things on the table, right? Like your migraines or your GERD. And migraines can be rated as high as 50%. GERD can be rated as high as 60%. So there's some substantial ratings there. And my kind of viewpoint on this always has been, look, you file for everything that you are actually able to file for, right? Whether it's 0% ratings, 10% ratings, 50% ratings, I don't care. I believe that when you're filing your claim, you should file for everything that you have due to you, because you can 0% could leverage out to other secondary conditions to help you. That 0% could turn into an increase later and become a 20%, all helping you to that 100%. So just wanted to share some insight and give a little kind of just off the cuff conversation with you guys. I appreciate every one of you. I know this is a little bit of a long video, so for those that hung on for 15 minutes, thanks. I know it's a long time to be staring at all this. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.